Hello. If you watched my last video, you will remember that today is actually Guatemalan Independence Day. So now we are on our way to the Guatemalan coast, or part of the Guatemalan coast. And we are driving from Quetzaltenango, which is about a 3-hour ride. Can you guess where we are going? So, traveling in between regions of Guatemala is going to be very different if you are used to the North American way of traveling, which is actually airplanes. Did you know that Guatemala technically right now only has 2 international airports? Now, actually, they want to add Quetzaltenango as an international airport, so that will actually give it 3 international airports once that has been approved. But for the most part, people will fly into Guatemala City or Petan and Tikal. And then, how do Guatemalans travel internationally or domestically, throughout Guatemala? Well, Guatemala actually has a lot of buses that you can travel to if you're going from department to department, because remember, Guatemala does not have any states. They have departments. So there are buses that you can take, or you can also book a private car with different tourist companies, and they can accommodate your needs, and you can make a custom plan to what your travel needs are. I have taken many of the buses in Guatemala, mostly from the capital to Quetzaltenango. This time, though, I will not be taking any buses as we are in a large group. So we have decided actually to take a private car, but you can also rent a car if you would like, and that is also doable. It just depends on what you need. So here we are close to the coast of Guatemala, and as you saw, people are doing their parade for Independence Day. So yes, the whole country is patriotic, but the most patriotic department, one would say, is Quetzaltenango. And here is a traditional Momostenango quiche dish. And here I am riding in the back of a truck visiting a plantain farm. And we did get to tour it and have a personal tour. Now, this isn't a tour that one would be able to take with a farm, because this was a private tour. That is why there's not a lot of footage, because we were actually enjoying our time. It's super lovely, really beautiful, but it is way hotter than Quetzaltenango because we are close to the coast, and actually we are on the border of Mexico and Guatemala. We're about 30 to 45 minutes depending on traffic, and they are so beautiful. The leaves are so green and big, and there are a lot of plantains. Unfortunately, they did not have any bananas. If you ever get to visit Guatemala, I highly recommend, almost demand, that you try the Guatemalan bananas, because they are just a lot more sweeter. And now we are back in the center of Quetzaltenango on the actual day of independence. So no, there is not a lot of festivities. This is actually the only thing that I found, and this apparently happens quite frequently. And this is the next day, and I'm actually doing a chocolate tour. Now, I highly recommend that you do this. This is a chocolate tour, and we booked a private tasting and a tour of the museum, which gave us a lot of insight, and she gave us the history of her family's chocolate making, and she decided to make a chocolate museum, and you can try the different chocolates. And the really cool thing is, I believe it's the fifth or sixth generations that her family has been making chocolate. And in the museum, you actually get to learn the significance of the chocolate in Mayan history. And I guess I should make a little disclaimer. All of the activities that I have been doing in Mexico and Guatemala or any Spanish speaking country, I do not need a translator. I do not know if they speak in English or in other languages. That is really not a thing that I ask, because I speak Spanish and English and I translate for my boyfriend. So I don't know if they speak English, because it's just easier for me to translate for the both of us. And we had a really cute visitor, and the cat belongs to the chocolate tour, and the cat is the most sweetest baby cutie pie, and definitely made me miss my cats for sure, most definitely. So that is something to keep in mind. The chocolate tour, I don't know if they offer in English, as it was in Spanish, like I said. But that is something to keep in mind if you do need translation services. Maybe make a friend, learn the language. And it is most super beautiful and informative to understand the whole history of chocolate. Would be doing it disservice by making a few comments, as it is a complicated and long subject, but it is very sacred and important to all of the indigenous peoples in Guatemala and the Mayans, so some of the indigenous people in the southern region of Mexico as well. And they would use it for ceremonies too. One of the traditions that they still follow today is that when a bride and groom are engaged, the groom has to send a basket for the bride's loved ones, chocolates, breads, sweets, meals, and you do that to show that you love your bride and you can provide for them, and you're kind of announcing to the family, hey, I can take care of my future wife. And the groom will do this actually not just after the engagement or before right during the engagement, but even long after they are married. And it's a very important tradition that they still follow. And I thought that was interesting because there are a lot of traditions, and it's so interesting to learn more about a culture that I am a part of, and interesting because this isn't really something you're going to hear about on the news of that tradition. So I really loved how she explained everything, and I recommend checking it out. Right after the chocolate tasting tour of the museum and history, we decided to go to a hot spring in Quetzaltenango, and this is actually our first time going to this particular hot spring in Quetzaltenango. I'm not sure if there are more in Guatemala, but I would assume so, because Guatemala has a lot of volcanoes. The coffee there was really good, and again, we learned today that chocolate is very sacred in the Guatemalan indigenous culture, and it was so cool to learn that chocolate has healing properties, and they would treat it actually as medicine. So it was so cool to go in the hot springs and then be able to have hot chocolate after. You can rent lockers and towels at the hot springs. In Guatemala, it is a conservative country, so you are going to see people more covered up compared to North America. That's just something to keep in mind when visiting Guatemala. And we went to the Pollo Campero back in Quetzaltenango, and here you'll see I'm actually in awe of the salad because of how absolutely delicious it tastes. And here I am at a cafe. The second floor, it is very, very small, and I was actually able to touch the ceiling, and I am 5'2". And then we went to Xelapan to see more of the traditional breads. And here I just went crazy because the bread is so delicious, and this is what I grew up eating, the traditional breads. And the breads are so amazing in Guatemala, and there's actually a lot of history. If you'd like to know more about anything, just let me know and ask me, and I will do my best to let you know. And this is best enjoyed with a hot coffee. Now, because of tourism, there is cold coffees, but a lot of Guatemalans you're going to see are going to be drinking hot coffee even in the summer, and that is just the way that they enjoy their coffee. There are lots of kind of bread. They have a frances bread with frances, and that is the Guatemalan version of French bread. In Quetzaltenango, the specialty bread is checas, and they do it in a special way, and it kind of has a bun on the top made with anise, and those are absolutely amazing. Some people will eat them with black beans and eggs, or just black beans and a hot coffee for breakfast. And then there is the checas of Quetzaltenango style, absolutely beyond beautiful. And I love the tostadas. And here we are back in Central Park, ready to end the night. So you're just gonna have to follow along to see what happens next, and leave a comment, and I will see you until next time. Bye.